Class Productions.
Pasadena, California, is a prestigious city known for its annual Rose Parade, Rose Bowl, NASA, Jet Propulsion Laboratory, Caltech, and many other iconic attractions. Although Pasadena's beautiful, there's a dark undertone of gang violence that exists in the city. The question is, what can we do about it? Let's explore solutions.
Police have responded to 4 shootings, 3 of which happened in Pasadena City Parks. On January 21st, 2 people were wounded after a shooting at Washington Park. 6 days later, a 50-year-old man was shot to death in Villa Park. Just this past Thursday, shots were fired at La Pintoresca Park. Police also answered calls of shots fired in the area of Fair Oaks Avenue.
Just 11 miles north of Los Angeles lies Pasadena, a 23-square-mile suburban city historically known as the land of the rich and wealthy. There's always been a contrast between the rich and poor from the beginning. The economic disparities and racial divide eventually evolved into groups, clubs, and gangs. Gangs have been around since the 70s. Currently, there are over 8 active gangs, estimating well over 1,000 gang members. The majority of gang violence takes place in a 4-mile pocket known as the Northwest. To get a better understanding of the culture, we will be connecting with community members and service providers as they share personal experiences and ultimately discuss solutions.
I'm from California, city of the rose. Grew up in Pasadena. That's just how I go.
I was kind of looking for acceptance from my family as well as the streets, so the gang culture kind of blended the two into one entity, and I guess that's why I stayed with it so long, you know what I'm saying? It was more like a family than anything, you know?
To be honest, man, my uncles, my cousins, my family was banged out at an early age, man. I remember being a young kid and seeing people getting dragged out of my living room with a pistol to the brain because they wanted to make sure that they weren't snitching and giving evidence on my other family members that were still selling drugs. I seen the fast money, I seen the beautiful women, and I seen the lowriders, and I was like, damn, I want to be like them when I grow up, you know? It was like all my life I wanted to be a gangster.
I wasn't a banger. I wasn't a banger at first. I just wanted to work on cars, you know what I mean? But where I grew up at, guys knew I knew how to fight. So they wanted me to be from, you know, that area, and I wasn't with it. You know, so it came to the point to where they started jumping me. Start getting hit with bats and poles or whatever. So I'm like, you know what? It's time to turn up.
What drew me to the lifestyle of gang violence, brother, is the schools I went to. I went to schools that were predominantly Crip schools, and we had to fight to go to school. We had to fight to get home. I had to fight on the bus. So, you know, my constant everyday lifestyle was a fight. So it wasn't that I joined a gang, I just decided to fight back.
As for me, you know, I grew up in like the heart of it, like Jackie Robinson Park was like where it all, you know, went down. Like I just seen that lifestyle and seen they was having all the girls and the money and, you know, having control in that area. And, you know, it was a real dangerous area. So a lot of people were scared. So it was like your way out.
Pasadena had something different. And then when I went to LA, and then I went to Long Beach on the weekends, it was different. I sort of got attached to that because it was music involved. It was like it was really, for me, it was more on my music. I was able to get around some people and really capturing on my talent and learn more about my skills. So that drew me into hanging around them guys even more and even heavier. Next thing you know, woo, I'm one of the guys.
My whole family from this shit, you know what I'm saying? Everybody, mama, daddy, uncle, grandpa, everybody from this, so that's all I seen coming outside. With just the gang life, you know what I'm saying?
Growing up in it, I had older cousins, family, uncles, just everybody was involved in it. So it was like I wanted to be like them. I wanted to do what they was doing. They glorified the funness of it, you know what I mean? So I wanted to do what they was doing.
I was born into the lifestyle, I was just growing up, just a product of my environment. I just was attracted to the fast, easy route, and I just gravitated towards it. It wasn't no particular incident. It was just a gumbo, a mixture of just being in the Pasadena streets.
There was a couple of things that drew me to it. Number one, we lived directly in the area. Every time I walked out my door, I seen gang members walking up and down the street. When I went to the store, I seen them. When I went to the park, I seen them. So they were all around me. My brothers was gangbangers. So I came in contact with them a lot.
What drew me to the lifestyle was coming from a broken home, first and foremost. That's where it always starts from, a broken home. When you don't have mama and daddy up under the same roof, man, you grow up under a certain kind of attitude. If you're missing one or the other, man, because mama and daddy's like peanut butter and jelly, man. It goes together, man. And if one of them is missing, sometimes you ain't eating.
I had uncles, that was involved prior to me even stepping out the house. So, once I tried stepping out the house, it was kind of labeled already, based upon, who I was related to.
My dad was part of a culture of Pasadena sheriffs that were abusing the citizens, and it was no different at home. So I was abused by my father. My mother was beaten down a couple times. She'd been hospitalized. She called the sheriffs to get help, and his partner showed up and said, "Hey, he just had a bad day, that's it." If your own father and law enforcement are not going to protect you, then who are you going to get protection from? I rode a tough bus, and so I became a Crip.
My big bro, you feel me? Big mouth power. Seeing that nigga bang PDL and watching Colors of Nice Tea, you feel me? Kind of drew me to the lifestyle and shit, but he didn't want me in it, you know what I'm saying? So I grew up off of Mariposa. We all grew up, you know what I'm saying, under the blue team, which was a different side in Aldina, so we kind of put a little division between us, but yeah, that was my influence.
It was more the respect that they'll get, because Mom gave us all the love. I didn't grow up with a dad, older brother, older cousins. Mom working 2 jobs, so there was no really that much parent supervision, and it was just easy to me to get out the house and go kick it.
I think when you say gangs, we're not addressing the whole issue. So I would say when you live a dysfunctional lifestyle and you connect to the violence and all those things, it's bigger than just gangs. Gangs is just like a small symptoms as a reaction to what's really going on with the individual. And as I was growing up as a young person, I was exposed to different traumas, which I wasn't aware of until, later on down the line. So the dysfunction of a family, not having a consistent father figure in the household, all these things played in the decision for me to live a reckless life.
The big homie trying to talk to you. The big homie trying to talk to you. You gotta listen. The big homie trying to talk to you. Trying to get this thought through you. You gotta listen.
Pasadena has had a history of gangs. Some of them were racial. A group called the Minutemen, a white group on the east side of Pasadena, preyed upon black Pasadena for many years. Caused a lot of problems at the newly erected school, which was Pasadena High School in 1958. So from that standpoint, there has been racial gangs going all the way back to the Ku Klux Klan, West Coast, all right? But when we talk about Pasadena gangs from a black perspective, basically it was not more for turf, more so than protection. And the first known black Pasadena gang was known as the Pepper Street Gang. which had the Robinson brothers, Jackie and Mac Robinson, on Pepper Street, between Sunset and Fair Oaks.
Growing up in Pasadena, the first gang I ran across was probably in about the 9th grade. It's called the Syndicate, and they were up out of Washington Junior High. Syndicate didn't care. They were just that group. When I came back from the military in '76, gangs just blew up. North side, south side. There was a Chicano gang earlier in the 50s called the Little Scholars. They called themselves the Little Scholars because there was a PE teacher at McKinley Junior High. They used to call these little Chicano kids wise asses. You know, where you wise asses go? So they figured, well, I'm a wise ass, then I must be a little scholar. So that was the name that they took on for themselves. North side started off with the Villa Boys, which used to be the Villa Street, where the Villa Park Community Center was a boys club. It was the Villa Street Boys Club. And that's where a lot of little homies started to hang out from Villa Boys. But there was a young gal who was killed down in the Pasadena Mall. And there was a fear. And so when we said we want to do an anti-gang thing, Pasadena Police Department denied there was a gang thing, right? They said, no, there's no gang. We don't need a gang program because we don't have any gangs, right? And they're worried about if we said there's gangs, then economically, less people would even come to the Pasadena Mall.
Moving here to Pasadena, I didn't see gangs then. Gangs in the sense that we're talking right now. But we had motorcycle clubs, there were car clubs. I went to John Muir. Yeah, you see a lot of the brothers, the Monzas and the Volkswagens, the Chevys, everybody has their clubs, their cars and their clubs and things of that sort. And like I said, several motorcycle clubs. But again, gangs in the sense that we see them now, didn't really see them. I started working for Pasadena in like '78, and the biggest issue in that particular time was narcotics, and you had some really heavy rollers dealing narcotics in the city and throughout the nation at that time. Shortly after some of those folks were incarcerated, taken off the streets, then you start seeing the development and activity of gangs. That was, I want to say, in the 80s, And I mean, it was just a lot of the gang violence just went, it was just off the chart. And if you do some research, a lot of the gang activity that began in the Watts area, in Los Angeles area, somewhere in 68, 69. That's my understanding. And I think some of that culture eventually, latched on to here in Pasadena.
This group called the Ghetto Boys, out of Kings Manor. And they were the first gang, I think, to really look at the differences between what was going on in Pasadena and Altadena. So eventually, after a few of the members of the Bloods from LA came to Pasadena, inaugurated, which morphed into the first Blood gang in Pasadena. At the same level, Altadena being affected because it's an LA county, it's not a city, were also affected by what the Crips were doing. So you found out later that here in Pasadena, we had the Bloods, which eventually became Denver Lane, and the Crips in Altadena, which eventually became the ABCs, the Altadena Block Crips, First time we ever had blacks beating down blacks. And that permeated, man.
When you start doing research on segregated housing and the history of housing policies in the U.S., that it's basically the history of racism. Our policies have divided cities across our nation. And so when I saw the repercussions of our racist policies around housing and how that's created a community where the kids all find each other to form a gang.
When I saw the change was probably in 84, 85, when I came back home from college, and I just saw a difference. And I think the difference was it was drugs. The drug came into the city. It was just drug infested. So I think that's where the Bloods and the Crips really emerged, mainly from Pasadena, was with the influx of crack cocaine, really.
A lot of people perceive of Pasadena as being this idyllic, bucolic, suburban community just a few miles from downtown LA. And historically, it was developed as a wealthy enclave. There was Millionaires Row. Over 100 years ago, the billionaires of the day, so you had the Huntingtons, you had the Gambles from Procter & Gamble, and you had Wrigley Chewing Gum. They all moved here, plus a lot of their friends. So from the very beginning, there was this contrast between rich and poor, and this environment of keeping people separate and keeping wealthy people in one part and keeping working class people in another part. And so a lot of people, if you ask them around the country, what do you think of when you hear Pasadena? They say Rose Parade, they say Rose Bowl, they say, beautiful tree-lined streets and wealthy mansions, and that's not the whole story. And this, because of a lot of the social inequities, the economic disparities, the challenges, everything from public education to housing, there is a contrast here. And as a result of those disparities, there was an evolution of gang activity. There is a long history of gangs in this city, and a lot of people are not aware of that.
Gang violence not only impacts families, it also impacts the community. These tragic losses leave lifelong emotional scars and grief. We're all affected.
My own son, Brandon Douglas, he was murdered December 22nd, 2017, here in Pasadena due to gang violence. So that was a big thing, especially always trying to tell our kids, watch out, be careful, even what not to wear, even as when they get older, they're still, looking out for stuff like that. So got to get more awareness out, even with mental health and everything, Raised in Pasadena, so I've lost a number of friends to gang violence. Even my oldest son, Sam, his dad was a victim of gang violence. So pretty much familiar with that. I grew up around the neighborhoods here in Pasadena Northwest. Not a gang member, but I've been affiliated and friends with a lot, so I'm pretty much right here with them.
Well, I haven't been personally impacted by the street gangs, but I have been impacted by the blue uniform gang, which I call the Pasadena Police. The Pasadena Police murdered my son, Kendrick McDade, on March the 24th, 2012. But needless to say, Kendrick is not here to tell his own story, so we'll never know actually what really happened. Kendrick was actually conceived on the same street that he lost his life on. He was a phenomenal kid. He had dreams and goals of it like everyone else, of doing something positive in his life. I grew up in the northwest side of Pasadena, so as Kendrick got older, I decided that I didn't want him to fall into the gang activity or be a victim of the police. So when he got to, I think it was 8th grade, I moved out of Pasadena to Azusa, and we continued our life there until he lost his life. Again, I haven't been physically impacted by the street gangs in Pasadena. My impact was through the police, and I just feel that they should be held accountable for their actions. I feel that they should stop getting away with murder. It hurts me because one of the officers that killed Kendrick, he now has stripes on his uniform. So to me, that's letting the community know that it's okay for officers to go out and kill unarmed black young men and get away with it. And I think that it should be a stop. It should be stopped. It should be halted immediately, because it's not fair to me or another mother for us to have to bury our child and have to deal with the acts behind it, and they get praised on it.
it impacted me in more ways to where last year I ended up losing my son, you know, and it was something that I could have never, ever, ever, ever foreseen. Like, my kid? Like, nah. The whole tragedy of it is you never suspect, I never would have thought in a million years, like today, I would be expecting I still drive around like, man, where this boy at? You know, I wish I could, you know, or man, if only, man, I wish he was here right now, like right now. You know, it's just certain things that play into my head since the loss of my son, and it's just like, you look at things different, especially when it hit home. You know, everyone that lost a loved one, but when you lose something that you produced, that you brought, this is me, it make you look at people, places, and things different.
My son, Robert Arthur Calderon, who was born in 1988, I raised him to be, you know, a Catholic student in the high schools. I did not want him to go or to attend the typical high school. I did everything I could to keep him away from what I thought was protecting him from the gang life in Pasadena. And I think in hindsight, it kind of backfired on me. He inadvertently was attracted to the blood gangs here in Pasadena. And although we're Latinos, it's very easy because Pasadena is a melting pot for Blacks, Mexicans, Armenians, you know, pretty much all cultures. He met a young lady and they both kind of had some similar, you know, not having their father in their life issues. Although my son had a stepfather, his real father was around the corner and really didn't even acknowledge his existence. He, you know, started to change, you know, his behavior changed, and he started to like smoke weed and, you know, bring certain kids over to the house, and I didn't like it. And I don't think that I ever just at that time stopped to say, you know what, I went through this as myself. How can I help him? How can I change him through this? In time, he just started to hang around with these kids that I had no idea, and kids that I didn't like because of his association. But one time my son said to me, how could you work for the city of Pasadena and work with kids and then not like a particular kid? And it really put me in my place. You know, that's the part of me that this is who I really was. And through that, I was able to start recruiting these kids, putting them in programs, getting them jobs. And it kind of made me work with this population. I thought that my son's death would hold me back. It pushed me through, it pushed me forward. So I continue to do what I can. And I don't blame anyone for my son's murder. I just want to know why he was killed. When Jordan Lean picked up this case, he was able to just start checking off all the boxes of the things that should have been done 10 months ago. So it stalled the case for 10 months. So because of him, I learned to respect the police department again. And because of my son's death, I learned to really work with my community again. I continue to give back because I really hope that one day there's justice for my son. At this point, we do not have justice, but I hope that we will have justice.
Gang violence has basically led my whole life to be one big nightmare, you know what I'm saying? From 4 prison stints, you feel what I'm saying, to getting shot at by Crips everywhere I go, to having a face that's recognizable, that people want to see and kill, you know what I'm saying? It's impacted my family, my wife, my children, everybody around me, you know what I'm saying? It's just not the gang member that becomes impacted by the decision. It's ultimately everyone that loves him or the people he comes in contact with.
Ooh, lost a lot of time I cannot get back, man. I went to jail at age 9. Sold to an undercover cop, never forget it, man. Lady rolled up and bought $40 worth of cocaine from me at Jackie Robinson Park, man. And I'm out there on the streets, man, doing my thing, trying to become MVP, you know, trying to be the most valuable hustler out there in the gang, man, make all the paper, man, out there being greedy, man. And what happened was I'm all up in the window, man, giving them my demonstration. And next thing you know, man, they done turned all the corners, man, and dug in my pockets and found what they was looking for. And from there, man, that revolving door just kept going, man.
I grew up just down the street in Highland Park, and it was a time in the 80s and 90s where drive-bys were a regular thing. Going to a football game was a regular thing. I lost probably 3 friends personally to gang violence who were not gang affiliated but innocent bystanders. Many of my friends were in the gang life and their lives have been impacted too, whether they're in jail or hiding from their communities. So I think gangs have affected my life in a really big way, directly and indirectly.
You know, I've lost a few friends to gang violence, and I've also know friends that people that I considered friends growing up in the city of Pasadena that are now behind bars because of the influence of gangs.
I've been jumped, I've been shot at, I've been incarcerated, all behind gang violence. You know, I have family that was born in it before me, generations before me, and I just carried the torch. My mom, she tried to prevent it. She put me in sports. I was good in school, but there was just something that the streets, just something that attracted me to the streets. She tried to even put me in Pasadena to go to Elliott Middle School. I was 8 houses down from Washington Middle School where the Bloods was at, but it was just ingrained in me. It was inevitable.
When I first moved out here, one of my close friends, Charles Brown, was killed in '95, and recent years, my friend Brandon Douglas was killed. And I remember my first day at PHS, Pasadena High School, Miss Pentecost told me, don't wear any blue on your shoes. And that really was the introduction for me that Pasadena was a gang-impacted city.
I've been impacted by being at numerous funerals, seeing the face of one of my really good friends murdered at a very young age. And I remember being at the funeral and his mom is like cloaked over in a cloak. She got a cloak on and she's hunched over and her face is pale white. And she's brown skin, you know, and just like dead, looking dead and alive. And everybody's just there banged out at the funeral like life is just going by, like nobody really cared anymore, you know? And seeing my friends' brains blown out on Raymond and Summit, on Raymond and Washington and Summit and Washington, and various different shootouts that I was involved in and going in and out of juvenile hall at a very young age and then going to the county jail and then, you know, eventually getting hooked on drugs and shit, man, you know? Like, that's where it led me to.
I was going through the academy and the police academy, and that was in '78. And even just starting to talk about it still kind of chokes me up a little bit. And one of the field trips that we take through the academy is to the morgue, to the LA City morgue. You know, so you're aware of things of that sort. And you know, the first time you see a dead body is not when you see it on the street, so you freak out when they take you there. All I saw was a pair of Converse folded down, Converse tennis shoes folded down, jeans with the cuff on. I mean, and a lot of guys were wearing that at that particular time, but for some reason, I looked at that and it reminded me of this young man who, same age as my younger brother, that he was like my younger brother. Obviously, I was distraught, and one of the drill instructors who was taking us through saw this, pulled me to the side. Is everything all right? I said, the guy there looks like a young man that I know. I gave him the name. Come to find out that was a young man that I had known for a long time.
Basically, I, being a mother of 2 teenage boys, you know, and living in this community my whole life, I have witnessed a lot, you know, of the negative impact it's had on our young kids. I've tried my whole life to keep my sons away from, you know, that environment, but of course there's the peer pressure and of course their friends and, you know, us living right here in the midst of it, you know, you can't help but to be, you know, a witness to everything. I have actually jumped in and tried to do something about it, being that my kids are right here and they have been involved in situations that really, really kind of upset me. So as a mother, I kind of stepped out and said, you know, what is it that I can do to try and make a difference?
I done lost a lot of friends to death and, you know what I mean, to the jail cells, like doing 75, 60, 80. So, you know, a lot of close homies too, like people that I call my brothers more than homies, you know what I mean? But, you know, it's the lifestyle we chose, so that's the you know, the bad shit that come with it.
I lost best friend at like 14, lost another one at 15, a couple more by 18. So now, you know, at 37, I at least lost 20 homies. You know, been in the jail system, in and out of that. You know, been shot at over 10 times, and so, you know, I've been really impacted real hard by it, because, you know, I lost a lot in it, you know, and friends, my life, you know, I had played football and all that, and, you know, when you choose the gang, you gotta split time.
Man, I've been heavily impacted by gang violence, man. I've been to jail, been to prison, been shot at, shot back, you know. Spent most of my years dictated where I'm gonna go, where I feel comfortable, you know, certain places I didn't wanna go, meeting certain people, so it heavily impacted my life. Even has a effect on my children. That's how much it impacted my life.
I was born here, I grew up here. I went to Blair High School, McKinley Junior High. In particular, at our school, there was a lot of Latino gang activity. One of my friends was stabbed at one point during our high school, and then there were African American gangs that were active too. I can remember in the early 90s, there was a church here called All Saints Church, and they convened a walk, a march, to try to recognize all the people who've been killed. You know, over 100 people's names on signs, and we walked from Northwest Pasadena down to St. Andrews. So since that time, I've been dedicating a lot of my effort to try to reduce the violence and bring opportunity to people in education, as opposed to discriminatory practices and economic disparity and frankly racism.
I mean, you know, it bring a lot of, you know, bullshit to the game, but at the same time, it's all I know. It's all I know. I've been impacted a lot. You know, I lost a lot of homies to this shit, you know what I'm saying? But, I mean, you know, it's part of this game banging.
I didn't go to the pen once. I didn't go to the pen twice. I went to the pen 5 times. I was 36 years old before I stopped going to prison. You know, so I had to learn the hard way, but I had to go through that shit to become who I am today, you know?
I've had friends that have fallen victim to gang violence, killed at a young age. I've been shot at as a youth, been chased, experienced gunfire at a very young age. So, you know, it was a part of everyday culture where I grew up at, so it impacted me every day.
Well, it's impacted me in several ways. I obtained a degree that I can't apply to anything because of my felonies. I took and passed a criminal investigation course, and because of my tattoos and because of my record, I can't apply that to anything. So, also, I've lost a lot of friends, a lot of close friends, a lot of family members. They've died due to gang violence. A lot of them are serving life in jail due to violence and, you know, due to gang banging. And so it was an impact on me. It was rough.
I see my best friend get caught up in the stuff, seeing people like Deion Holloway that I've been knowing since I was in middle school get killed, walking to his grandma's house after practice, having guns put on myself, getting in fights. Seeing all that, it's like, do you want to continue doing all this stuff everybody else is doing, and you see what the outcome is? Even aside from passing, I got family members that are down in LA, hardcore gang members. One of my cousins got shot 6-7 times, drove himself to the hospital, and he's still out there running the streets. Like, that's not what I want for myself. So that was kind of just wake-up calls. I had a lot of wake-up calls. And there's 2 ways you go learn something. It's either through other people's failures or through your own.
I lost a brother, and I lost a lot of friends, you know? And one thing for sure, when I lost my brother, it took a big toll on me. To see that hurt in a parent's eyes, like I seen in my mama's eyes, that backed me up.
I originally came from Kings Manors. I started out in Liso Village, from Liso Village to the jungles. From the jungles, Kings Manors just opened up. I ended up being in Kings Manors. Address is 1224 Progress Lane, but there was no progress on Progress Lane. It was robbing, stealing, killing, and banging on Progress Lane. A lot of my friends are not here today because of their choices. I chose not to be that way because I was the only child. Something happened to me, I don't have my mama, I'm gone, my mama by herself. I couldn't do that, so I chose to do something different. My friends, by doing some of the things they did, inspired me on what not to do. So I went the opposite way. They stole bikes, I had a lemonade stand. They was robbing people, I was over there selling candy. So it was just a choice thing. Whatever their choices were, I ain't knocking.
In my neighborhood where I live not far from here, in 2007, I think it was, there was 4 shootings or 5 shootings, all within 24 hours, all gang related. It was a very scary time. Not long before that was the Halloween shootings. And so it's very much a part of this community. I just feel like if one member of our community is hurting, we're all hurting. You know, it's something that says there's something really awry in our community if we're not loving our brother and our fellow man. And it's the segregation that's causing this kind of gang violence. Gangs are very segregated, and so I need those brothers in that part of town, and they need me. But right now we're too separated, so it affects me.
It affects me because I deal with a lot of students, and I can see the impact that it has on their lives, and to see the impact that, you know, not having fathers in their lives are doing for the kids. So that's the biggest impact that I see.
Man, I can honestly say I lost everything. I lost a lot of my youth years, placement, rehab, house arrest, juvenile hall, camps. So I wasn't really there for my younger brothers growing up. Lost time.
I've been impacted by it in a positive and negative, you know. I like to highlight the positive because it gave me identity at one point in time. You know, when you feel like you are disowned or you don't have nobody to connect with, you're gonna connect with somebody. So it gave me an identity, you know, and I always believe hurt people. So the truth of it is, you know, you just identify yourself with people that you can relate to. Negatively, how it impacted me, when you live in a reckless lifestyle of violence and dysfunction, there's consequences to that. So you're gonna experience incarceration, you're gonna experience death, you're gonna experience hardships. That's part of the lifestyle.
They ask me where I been, staying out the way. Too many homies gone up in jail for selling yay. Something happened in my hood almost every day. Now when they ask me where I been, staying out the way. Staying out the way. Staying out the way. Something happened in my hood almost every day. Now when they ask me where I been, staying out the way. And I swear like every month it's a funeral. But we so used to the violence, it's like it's usual. Homies killing homies, whoever thought it'd come to this. We meet up at Jackie Robinson to reminisce.
I mean, I ain't had a turning point yet. You know what I'm saying? But it get real out here. That's all I can say. It get real, but I ain't had a turning point yet, you know what I'm saying? But for all the people that's young and that think this shit cool, it ain't all what it's cracked up to be, you feel me? Everything. Like, ain't no turning point for me yet, you know what I'm saying? Hopefully one day, I got kids and shit, so.
What do you think pushed that change for you?
My kids. You know, I got 2 boys, so, you know, I don't want them to be doing the same thing I'm doing, you know what I'm saying, out here in the street, thugging, but hopefully them, you know what I'm saying? Keep them right.
From my dad in and out of prison to my older brother in and out of prison to all my cousins, my uncles, basically all my family, we come from generations and generations of people just going to prison. So like for me to see my little brother in prison, it was like, damn, you know, it reminded me of myself when I was little. I just wanted to be like my dad or be like my older brother. You know, I just wanted, like, some people be like, I just want to go to the army or something. Nah, it was different for me. I just wanted to go to the pen and put on some state boots, and that's all I had to look up to, you know, is people in prison. So when I was little, all I wanted to do was go to prison. I wanted to be like that. And it's fucked up to think like that, but it is what it is, you know. But when I see my little brother in prison, it opened my eyes, like, damn. And And I thought, like, is my son gonna be after him? You know, like, I didn't want that shit. And another thing is, like, I would look around and I see all these men in prison, like in wheelchairs, like walkers, crutches, old men, 50, 60, 70 years old. And, you know, I ain't trying to be like that. I ain't trying to grow old in this bitch. I already gave them enough of my life. I just got tired of it. And December 20th, 2018, I have 10 years out. And that was like, that's like a miracle for a motherfucker like me, because I couldn't stay out a year since I was 12.
I was out here one day, man, I lost my family to the game, man, meaning my wife and my kids, because I chose the game over my wife and my kids. I lost my backbone, and while I was out here walking this asphalt, man, and combing these streets, man, out here what they call hustling, you know what I mean, out here trying to make that quick buck, man, I found myself sleeping on my relative's couch. And one morning, man, I woke up, man, and I knew I was missing something, and I had a feeling something was about to happen to me. See, my worst fear was going back to that jail cell, man. After 25 years worth, I've had my fair share. I don't want no more. But I was caught up in a lifestyle that was running me right back to that cage. So before I got back to that cage, man, I woke up, I never forget it, off my cousin's couch one day, man, dirty and rotten, you know what I mean? Had a ring around the collar, had ketchup on my t-shirt, had dirty drawers, funky breath. Man, I called myself getting up, walking around the corner, going to the liquor store, man, to get myself something to drink and a blunt to roll me up some dank, man. And as I was taking this walk, man, down Lincoln, if you can pay attention, there's several churches up and down Lincoln. And as I was walking, going to the store, man, something went off in my head and said, man, you know what, man, you probably need to go to church, Joe. So you asked where that transition point came. It came with God, brother.
After I was about 27, I already lost over 20 homies, and, you know, made it to get off of joint suspension and parole. So I was like, you know, I'm about to have a baby now, and, you know, it ended up being a boy. So I didn't want my son to, you know, grow up and have those negative influences like I did. You know, I want to be a positive influence in his life. So to do that, I had to, you know, slow down and, you know, try to break away from that, you know what I'm saying, and to be a positive role model and to be there for my son.
One of the turning points is when I was in the county jail, and the Southsiders was really beefing hard with the blacks. I was 18. We squashed everything. Everything was cool with the essays and the blacks in my dorm. And then I guess one of the essays had said something or did something and was loud. So the guard came in and was like, why the Southsiders can't be like the blacks? The next morning we was fighting. They felt like that was a disrespect. So that made me think, like, okay, why am I gangbanging? Why am I upset about this dude because he got a blue rag? And then I had a daughter. And that completely changed everything. Even though I had to ride every day with a gun, a vest on, or whatever the case may be, I made sure she didn't ride in the car with me. Her mom and my daughter had to follow me for a long time. And then once I moved, everything became a little more simple.
Accumulating stuff and then losing it over and over again, you know? Looking back and like, what I'll be drinking, when I was still in my addiction, I'll be drinking and I'll start crying out of nowhere because I miss people that I love and I realize that they're never coming back, man. And then seeing like my next generation, like my little nephews and shit, tagging on my windows of my car when I wouldn't wash them, and I just seen that like, this shit is getting bad, you know? And then getting addicted to drugs, fighting with my kid's mom all the time, and then eventually getting my kids taken away, man, and I had to fight to get them back.
My kids, when my first daughter was born, it changed my perspective on how I looked at shit, like how I looked at people, you know what I mean, females, you know what I mean, everything. So it just, you know, made me like just appreciate life a little more, you know what I mean? And then the second one, when I like started losing my close ones, it was like, man, it's a continue to doing the same thing or try to figure out something better to do, you know what I mean?
Well, I just got out the feds. I just did 8 years in the feds, and during that time, you know, going in and out of prison. Before that, I did 2 years in state prison, and gangs was my family still in prison. So I just got to a point where I just reflected and looked at other people, how my actions reflected on my mother, my sister, my grandmother, my auntie. And that was the turning point, not alone with my kids and my kids' mother. So that was the point where I was like, my actions is affecting their lives, not just my lives. I grew up with the I don't care attitude, but it ain't about me no more. So that's what made me change. That was the fork in the road that made me say, you know, I need to change this negative lifestyle into a positive lifestyle.
My turning point came in 1998. Sitting in LA County Jail, I'm facing 2 life sentences, followed by 6 years. And I knew that I didn't have anybody to talk to in there. I tried to have an intelligent conversation and it just wasn't happening. I had to dumb myself down. I had to pretend that I was still with the ignorance that I was with when I was 18 or 19. But by 1998, I was 34 years old. 34 or 35, and I didn't want to have the same conversations I had at 18 or 19. So I knew, I prayed to God, if he gets me up out this situation, you know, I'll never go back. There's just so much ignorance there that I'll never be a part of that again.
I got tired of going to jail. I got tired of seeing my mom cry. I got tired of letting my family down. When you go to jail, nobody looks out for you but your family. So I felt like I wanted to do better. I wanted to be better. I wanted to be the smart, intelligent person that I am. I wanted to go back to school. I wanted to have a family. I wanted to buy a house. I noticed that when I went to jail, a lot of people who I hung out with on the streets wasn't there no more. They wasn't accepting my calls. They wasn't writing me letters. And so that made me sit back and think and realize, are they really my friends? Are they so-called homies that they say they'll be there for me and be down for me? They wasn't there when all that happened. So I can imagine if I died, they wouldn't go to my mom's house every day. So I just had a change of heart. It wasn't for me no more. I didn't want that life. I just wanted to be Pamela.
Well, ain't no chip really involved, you know, for start. You know, you hustle until you figure out that, you know, everybody at the station ain't rooting for you, you know you're killing your peoples, you know, and you know, it's just a distraction, you know. Anybody can see it, you know. Like I said, if you was trying it 20, 30 years ago, I can understand, but 20, 30 years later, you part of the problem. I just basically try to, you know, stay focused on and groomed every day to make sure, you know, the next few that whatever God bless me with is accounted for, and each one teach one.
I went to prison. I did 10 years. When I was going through my turning point, I had to think about all the things. I had to weigh my pros and my cons. Like, is this worth it? Is this worth it? Is this worth it? Is this worth it? So at the end of the day, I chose my freedom. I chose my life. I chose God. I chose my family. You know, I chose me.
It wasn't when I became a father. It was mainly when I went to prison and seeing the guys that I look up to, the older homies and everything, being lifers and them telling me like, this ain't the lifestyle, this ain't the way to be. And they told me just basically a real motherfucker be out there taking care of their kids, taking care of their family. And that was mainly my turning point. And then just seeing how the ones you ran around with and grew up with, they ain't there for you when shit hits the fan. You're out on your own, and I got deported, and nobody was looking out there for me, like my immediate family, my brothers, my wife, my mom. And it really made me think, like, you know what? I don't want to be in there stuck doing life.
My last time going to jail, you know what I'm saying? I had to do like 4.5, you feel me? And I just felt like instead of me taking this as a burden, make it a blessing. You know what I'm saying? So I went up in there with an attitude that's like, how can I make this shit make a difference mentally for me? You know what I'm saying? To be an influence positive. So that's where Lawless came in. I created Lawless, living above what life encounters, strive for success. You feel me? OGOS, on gang on set. I kind of put my heart and shit into that shit and more out of the like traditional out in the block Crip 3s, which is really what got me to that level, but still here. You feel me? Like on a level to where I could communicate with anybody. You know what I'm saying? Not just to, you know what I'm saying, confined to this and that. So that like liberated me, you feel me, and gave me like a sense of freedom.
I haven't really changed. What I did, I just made adjustments, you know what I'm saying, to how I live. I don't go around looking for problems with Crips, you know what I'm saying? I don't go around asking niggas where they from and all that, you know. I used to do all that extra out shit, so now I can never say I made a change completely, because based on, if someone see me right now, they not gonna have a changed heart, you know what I'm saying? They immediately gonna try to press me, gonna try to do something to me, gonna try to kill me based on prior decisions I made. So I can never say I really changed, but I just do things differently now.
I think one was the day I threw my little brother, my baby brother, into a wall. I realized that I was no different than my father. And in my heart, I mean, I wasn't a violent person. So the last thing I wanted to do was to become him. And I realized that if I didn't do something, if I didn't change, then I was going to become him. And I'd be on a pathway that was going to destroy everything. I think also at that same time, there were men at my church, both pastors and leaders that cared about me even when I couldn't see it. You know, as a kid, you're so focused on, I want this from my father, and so you don't see the other people who are right there. But I began to see that those men were there, and they mentored me. They helped me transition into a better life.
I was just tired. You know, I feel like I had experienced everything pertaining to the justice system. You know, I've been to camp, juvenile hall, California Youth Authority, CDC, and once you go through all that, it's like, man, what else there's there to experience? You know, you get to a level where it's like, man, I'm gonna be here for the rest of my life if I don't change. And the fact, the anger that I possessed for who I thought was my dad at one point in time, I didn't want my kids to feel that. And I was doing exactly what he was doing to me, not being there. So I had to make some adjustments. I had to look in myself and say, you know what, if you want to do better and be there for your kids to prevent them from going through what I'm going through, because I know this don't feel good, I got to change my lifestyle. And to be honest, it was very difficult because I had to look myself in the mirror. And the biggest thing is to overcome the fear of the unknown for me, because I didn't know what it means to be responsible, to be a husband, to be a father, to be a productive citizen. So I really had to work on Chris in order to be a good father, a good parent, a good husband, and all these different things. And it takes a lot of hard work. But you know what? If you apply yourself and you do it, you know, things can happen. So I said, you know, I owe that to myself.
The world keeps turning, I gotta keep earning, I gotta seize the day, cause I feel time passing me by, passing me by.
So what will prevent the youth from getting involved in gangs, from my opinion, again, is linking them up and syncing them up with purpose. Right. Because when you have a purpose, then you have a reason to do something else. You know, the tribal unity in gangs give kids purpose. Right. Whether it's a positive purpose or not, it gives them something to stand for, it makes them a part of something bigger than who they are, it gives them an identity. Right. If they're able to get that outside of the gang lifestyle, they'll be much more drawn to staying away from it. And not just that, also community support. Yeah. Because again, when you're involved in these tribes that we call gangs, you get a certain support. When you go do this, the homies, you know, give you high fives, give you street cred, you get community support. If they have that outside of the gangs, then again, they'll be more drawn to stay away from it. So a lot of the stuff that a lot of these young people are looking for, they find it in gangs. It's just a counterproductive way of getting it.
What I think we can do is we have to improve ourselves.
improving the community around us always begins with how we improve ourselves and what we do to better ourselves and be a part of that community and be a part of those solutions. Because I think if we get involved as adults and as the older generation, we show by example the good things you can do. We show by example the other things that we can be in the community and the other values that we have and how we can use our entrepreneurial skills and our street smarts to actually make a difference in our community. So I think that those of us who come up in this society and come up in this community and who have a little bit of game and wisdom and knowledge can do a lot just by being an example, staying involved in our community, being seen at community events. The corny things that people think are not for us, we have to be a part of. And with that attitude, I think we can make a lot of changes. I think we can show a lot of these youngsters that there's opportunity in doing right. Because I believe a lot of youngsters get into gang violence and gangs in general just because of the lack of something to do. I think as long as we lead by example, create programs that are geared towards individuals who don't have father figures, who don't have role models, who don't have the ability to leave their environment every now and then, I think if we do those things, we can really make an impact and really change the direction of some of these kids' lives.
I think we need more stuff like this, more community involved, interaction with them, you know, sitting down, relating with them, letting them know what's going on, what do y'all need, what can we do, you know, more functions, more activities for them to get them outside of being in the ghetto where it's nothing to do and they're bored. And then when they're bored, boredom turns into trouble. If you stay busy and stay interactive, I think that can be more productive in life and want to achieve.
When we're presented by the police department or public safety setting, they always say, well, we're having a gang problem. It's a gang problem. It's a gang this, gang that. The way these issues are looked at is if they're a gang and that makes them no longer human. We dehumanize those people. They're gang members. Well, they're not even people. They're people. They're people first. And so we need to start looking at it as a people problem. Also, as a Foothill Workforce Development Board member, those that are out of high school and those that are in school that have been connected to maybe some gang violence or even some that weren't even connected to it, we're offering them employment. We want to make sure that there's something that they're doing, whether it's they're studying for those funds, or if they're working at Marshall's, or if they're working somewhere, or if they're working at a hotel here in town. We want to make sure that they have that opportunity.
Not enough is being done to help our youth. You know, taking people to jail and things like that is one thing, but it starts at getting it from the beginning. And the people, the people who are trying to help, you have to know about it, so you need to pull in more people that know about it to help these kids, because they're not going to believe everybody they hear. You got to be able to trust somebody. So it's going to take, bringing in people that's been there and done that to start talking to these, talking to the kids, talking at these schools, even at our centers and stuff, start bringing more people in, but we got to have something for them to do.
You want to help out the youth, you got to get them jobs, you got to train them, you got to give them something to do, something that they want to do, reach out to the youth that, that really need it, because there's a lot of people, a lot of kids out there that, come from broken homes, or on drugs or whatever, they need some type of mentors. They also need some kind of like a hood hero, like when we were young, we looked up to our OGs that had money and jobs, or sold drugs and had flashy cars and shit like that. They need something to look up to, but something positive.
We live in a society of broken homes. Men have to step up and be mentors. They have to be involved. One of the things, I'm gonna use a movie reference. One of the things that was true but pissed me off about Boys in the Hood was the main character. His best friends were Ricky and Doughboy, but his father didn't want him to have any part of friendship with Doughboy. But his father, knowing that these were his friends, could have mentored Doughboy. And I left the theater so angry. I mean, I knew it was true, so I wasn't faulting the depiction. I was just angry that this is where it was, that we only think about ourselves. We don't think about stepping outside of our comfort zone and making a difference in the lives of others. And it's important for every man to recognize your responsibility is not just to your own, it's to your community.
More programs for the youth, that's number one, It's every year, there's less things for them to do, so it only leaves the streets. So we gotta have, more organizations and sponsorship for the kids, and then we gotta have more positive role models.
More activities. They don't have what we had, bro. When we was coming up, we had Jackie Robinson, we had the Ponies, we had the Boys Club, we had all this. We had Peanut and them, Reginald Harmon them, who comes, take us to Magic Mountain and stuff like that. We ain't gotta pay nothing. They need more activities because they bored.
I think the only thing that'll stop the next generation from getting involved is if they create their own. So I think the Crips and Bloods will play out and they'll create dance group, party groups. Sometimes they're doing it. They have their own rap labels now, even though they don't have a record deal, but they've clicked up. So I think that young people are gonna click up regardless. It's just a matter of, is it gonna be positive or is it gonna be negative?
For us, that's involved in the streets, we need to be able to come together, you know what I mean, and show. We got to be able to show them. We got to lead by example. If us as the older generation can come together and put our past behind us like it's supposed to be, and start some newer shit, for everybody, it'll be something good.
I think that in the schools, they need to incorporate history. Gang life is a history, and they need to incorporate it into the educational system. So I think that if they brought people like yourself and myself into the school system to implement, that is history. We can still show them how we're all here and how history started. However, as time goes on, there's still more history to add to the books, and we need to show our kids the different cultures, the different gangs within the schools, areas that they're in the certain districts. And I think that could help our kids prevent, being influenced by the gang life.
More opportunities, taking somebody that's been in their footsteps or, been in a similar predicament that they see themselves in and showing that there's different outlets. And that kind of helped me was, some of the programs they had at John Muir, like the NPYD, getting involved with like the Business Entrepreneurship Academy. All this is about finding what they're interested in, and then taking someone that's in their interest field that's going to give them a positive impact. So if they want to listen to, whether it's the game or listen to a doctor or someone, whoever they're going to listen to, get that person, pull them in, and so they can give them some positive information.
There are many, many activities that are going on right now that are helping with that prevention. And ironically, a lot of people look to government for the solution, but government isn't the solution. These are people-driven responses. What's been committed to and dedicated to by the community in our city is reintegration services. It's helping people complete their education. It's putting them on a path for a career, not just a job. It's assisting them with the psychological and emotional trauma that they have to deal with through life skills. It's helping them to deal with their addictions in a positive way. And it's also getting them the job development and pathway to a job that they need that they wouldn't have otherwise. But it's a concerted effort that bridges or that blends numerous nonprofit organizations, churches, community groups, individuals, as well as some government assistance as well.
It's gonna take a whole community to stop this shit. Everybody gonna have to come together. It's not just gonna be one person. So what I did was I took the music and I kind of just used that as a language to communicate with the young homies, you know what I'm saying? And it's been working so far because now we got a dialogue when we never had one. They don't want to hear shit. They just want to kill shit. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, for me, it's been music. You know, it's been music that's been kind of saving me and the crowd I fuck with, because that is our language. You know what I'm saying?
We need, as men, we need to raise our families. We need to get back to our families, even with the guys that's in gangs right now that are out of jail, that have a chance. They need to start to make sure that they break that cycle. You know, take the kids out, have conversations with them, get them involved in different activities, teach them how to play music, or take them to lessons. You know, just sit down and really, really talk with them. Our kids need to talk to someone, and they need somebody in their lives that they can express themselves to. And I believe it starts with the fathers. The mothers are already there. They can't do it by themselves. We have to have our fathers.
Sense of leadership, something starts with us, you feel me? Older people, you know what I'm saying? Older homies, you know, having a route and an environment for our youth to come to and feel like they can do something different, you know what I'm saying? Like, with like programs, I would say, like software, studios, just, you know, something for them to give them, you know, to create art. You know, art started, you know, a lot of different things. You know, we didn't have a lot of that shit. Resources, you know what I'm saying? Boys and girls clubs, you know, bring these motherfuckers together, play sports, you know.
As far as a push, to me, it happens, first of all, having our kids accepted and have them that they can go to school and feel that they can be successful, and then you build off of that. You know, it comes down to, you know, a couple of things happen with change. You're either going to educate, or you're going to litigate, or you're going to have you a damn revolution. Chris Finney and I had an opportunity for a couple of years to run a trail crew, and that's one of the greatest transformations I've ever seen happen. We had every set that is conceivable in Pasadena. Right? We had Project Gangsters, Squigglies, Northside, Southside, Latin Kings. We had Crips, Bloods, AB. We had everybody. We worked as a team, and we were solid. Right? That was probably the best thing I've ever had an opportunity to work with. It was a hard day's work, and it just showed what these brothers' value was.
It's a lot of different organizations, but specifically, Flint Ridge provide resources for the formerly incarcerated. So those who is transitioning, coming home, it's already difficult. You coming home, you might burn some bridges. So we help with housing, employment, different things that folks need to, you know, make that transition as smooth as possible. We prepare men and women for the union trades. Again, one of the biggest barriers is employment. How you gonna come out here and compete with people who got degrees and you got a record? You know, so we looked at construction as an outlet. You know, they don't care about your background. As long as you're willing to show up, urinate clean, and work hard, this is the opportunity for people to have a career and a meaningful life, to have benefits and retirement and pension. So that's why we focus. So those are some of the resources we help with. Record change, we help people expunge their record, remove some of those barriers. Sometimes people have tickets and collections. We help them with that. Child support, mental health, substance abuse. There's so many resources. I mean, Flint Ridge is the one-stop shop, even though there's other organizations like Sources and Union Station that really can help as well. But Flint Ridge offer some outstanding resources to this population.
Focus on your household. You're out there, father, you're a mother, you know, focus on trying to be a better parent. You know, whatever you is, your mechanic, you know, focus on your toolbox. You got lyrics, work on them rhymes. You know, you're a chef, you know, getting them, you know, them ingredients right. You know, whatever it is that you got, you know, you're passionate about, you know, do you know, but be sincere about it. You know what I'm saying? Don't be shucking and jiving and wasting time, man, because, you know, it's valuable time wasted.
I think we need to stay active in their lives. Don't let them off the leash so early. Don't, okay, Mom, I'm going here, Dad, I'm going here, I'll be back. Okay, have fun. No, you gotta be a participant in their life. You gotta know where they going. You gotta be active. You gotta stay on them. You gotta watch their dress code. If they start looking a certain way, acting a certain way, dressing a certain way, the type of friends they hang around with, you gotta nip it in the bud and tell them, I see where this is going. We gonna go this way. You gotta be active in your kids' life. Put them in youth programs. Put them in different activities to keep their mind off walking out the house, going to the store. It can be prevented, but you gotta put in a lot of work and you gotta just be dedicated.
A lot of people will always just throw out jobs and say, get them some jobs. You know, and I think it's even deeper than that. You know, you gotta prepare them for jobs. There has to be some alternatives that are out there, some way to give a lot of young folks the hope that there is a brighter tomorrow. A lot of organizations are not doing as much as they can to really outreach. We need to find some way to bridge that gap. I think one of the biggest issues is people really don't listen, except for they listen to prepare a response to whatever you're saying. Instead of listening, taking that in and saying, okay, we need to develop a strategy to assist this young man, this young lady to get to the next level.
Well, they need brothers like myself and a lot of these OGs around here to step up and man up. See, I've been discussing with some brothers about putting together a man cave. See, we need a man cave to come together where we can, men of all races, all ages can come in and close the door and sit down. But come on in these closed doors and let's sit down and let's communicate. See, communication brings upon understanding. See, the brothers running around here that's going through what they're going through right now, they have no understanding. And without understanding, you're going to run into a brick wall. See, I understand where they're at because I've been there, and I understand where they're going if they don't change their pattern.
They gotta see something. They gotta see something. They gotta see something like what I done seen, you know what I'm saying? Homies dying and mama's crying and all that, like, you know what I'm saying? It's hurtful to see your best friend mama cry, you know what I'm saying? They gotta see that. Like, for a minute when I was young, I ain't gonna lie, when I seen my first homie get killed, I was like, oh, I don't wanna bang no more. It's too much, you know what I'm saying? But I was already off the porch and I was like, I'm already in this, you know what I'm saying? But you can turn back, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's what you can do.
There was one student, I call him a student, I guess really he was a gang, but part of my research. And he said, Jill, this is the deal. And I said, okay, you tell me what the deal is. He says, my little brother was taken out of our family by Child Protective Services. We were a pretty good family, but he was put into a family who was even worse. They actually abused him, but he was in the other side of town. He was in a better school, and he ended up going to college. All they did was change locations, and even a worse family, but in a better neighborhood, and that changed his life. And so I thought, man, that says everything right there. Being able to desegregate communities, have housing that is affordable and mixed racially throughout a community can do a lot to heal societal ills.
Not having these kids so close-minded, parents not hiding everything from them, and that's real. My kids know what I've done, my kids know the drugs I've done and everything, and they're more aware instead of trying to blindfold them to gang violence and drugs and alcohol. Basically just have some kind of program that reaches out to the kids that are really going through it, or even hearing somebody sit down and talk to them or hear them out that knows what they're going through and they can relate to that.
I think we need more activities in Pasadena as far as just sports, things that they can do. I remember when I was young, the Jackie Robinson Center had a roller ring. We just need more things, carnivals. The Black History Parade is basically all we have. I think we just need other things to keep the community together and to keep us united as one.
Us as a people, we got to go to these board meetings, these city councils, and we got to demand some of these programs that we had when we was kids that helped a lot of us. We got to go to these police department, to the city council, go talk to your local representative in your area. Got to make your voice being heard, because if your voice ain't being heard and then they come and they cut this tree down, they had, hey, we're gonna cut this tree down. Who say that we shouldn't cut this tree? Did nobody come and say don't cut this tree? But now it's a whole bunch of people raising noise about it. Well, if we as a people can get together and go raise noise from the gate, we don't have to worry about them cutting the tree. And that's what it is with our kids. If we get them from the gate, we ain't gotta worry about them cutting us down. Let's start at home.
Technology, economic development. We're in an economic development war. We're in a technological revolution and an evolution. And if we don't buy in to these concepts, we are going to be not only affected by a genocidal nature, but we will be exterminated as a community.
It's going to take a lot of resources. It's going to take a lot of unity. It's going to take basically changing their way of thinking, cognitive thinking. For you to change and make a change, you got to change your mindset on some of these youngsters and what's going on. There's not a lot allocated towards Northwest Pasadena. There is a lot of money in Pasadena, and I think a lot of it should be allocated more towards these youngsters and giving them, something to do, resources, jobs. If they don't have jobs, let's create some jobs for them. Let's give them something to do. Idle time, leaves idle hands, leaves nothing but bad things to happen.
We have to be more involved. We have to think of this more in a village mentality. We need to all be responsible on raising these babies, because some of them don't have the father in the home like I had. They're missing a lot of things, and I always live by the motto, become who you didn't have, or, replicate what you did have. And it's gonna take everybody to cause that change.
We need to educate our kids. We need to give back. The people who made it out, they need to come back and always continue to give back. There's an old saying says, give more and expect nothing in return. Just give and don't expect nothing in return. Give because it's the right thing to do. Give because you can give to a kid that might need something. Some of these kids need some cleats that their parents can't afford, but that changes things. They can look at them like, man, that dude is a barber, man, he bought me some cleats. Give somebody a uniform. Oh man, that dude bought me a uniform, or that lady bought me a uniform. Or you just hearing them, listen. Sometimes we have to listen to them in order for things to change, because the times are changing. The millennials that we have today are nowhere near what we had back in the day when I was growing up.
I think it's very important to have these conversations and use moments like this, like you are, to develop this film, to start raising awareness about what's really happening in our neighborhoods. Students in our after-school program, which is usually over at 6, around 4:30 say, I gotta go, Christy, because I gotta walk through the projects and I'm gonna get jumped. So it's amazing that we have all these nonprofits, but if our students don't feel safe coming to them, what good are they? Really. If you're scared to get jumped on your way to school and then you're wondering why is enrollment so low, let's talk about that. So they're scared to walk to school, they're scared to take the buses, they can't ride their bikes because they're gonna get jacked. So, and as someone who didn't readily grow up in that kind of environment, our neighborhood was hard, but I didn't walk to school, my parents drove me, I didn't experience a lot of the things the students teach me about all the time. And then to see it happen, the kid who's telling me he's scared of getting jumped, then I get a call from his mom when he has, his jaw broken and he's laying out in the hospital because he did get jumped. I was like, man, it happened. He was scared and it happened. What do I say now? And it breaks your heart, because how much can you do? So we just do our best. But I think we need more help, and we all need to come together to really make a difference.
If you would like to be more involved in the community and want to become a mentor, here are some resources to look into. We can make a difference.
S-Class Productions. S-Class Productions.
I'm from California, city of the rose. Grew up in Pasadena. That's just how I go. I'm from California, city of the rose. Grew up in Pasadena. That's just how it
I
goes.
reside in Pasadena, we call it the Rose City. I'ma take you through my hood, be patient and roll with me. It's the home of Jackie Robinson, where you gotta work your muscle, find a job or work a hustle. Playing at the Turkey Tussle, everything rose gold. Playing at the Rose Bowl, all my homies at the Yard Neck, playing dominoes. I got love for every Mexican in my body, yo. If you never been around here, we tell you adios. City of the Roses, lost on Lost Robles. I be out at Villa Park where they get the most lit. Low end snake pits, brothers trying to progress. Kings got manners too, shout out to the project. Everybody wear J's, everybody wear coats. Life ain't fair, but we still love Fair Oaks. I'm from the Rose Town, every day it goes down. Woodbury Avenue, all the way to Old Town. And now you know
I'm from California, city of the Rose. Grew up in Pasadena. That's just how it go. I'm from California, city of the Rose. Grew up in Pasadena. That's just how it
I'm
go.
from the city of the Rosebuds, where they give you cold hugs. Grew up at the boys club, gotta show my boys love. I'm good wherever I go, from the top to the low. Barbecues at the bowl, watching shorty drop it low. See the homies all day up at RJ's, Pac-Man Arcade, yeah, that was our day. Turkey Tussle getting chicks, Rose Parade making chip. In the streets the beef exists, everybody's in the mix. Asking when my rally went, Washington or Elliott, name it, we were selling it, moving with my fellowship. Let's go to Roscoe's, chicken and waffles, or La Estrella tacos. I need Quattro, basketball at Del Mar, Villa Park or JR. You either gang bang rap or you played ball. There's blood pressure and the streets are like arteries. Moving up late with a fresh plate of Bonnie B's.
and now you know
I'm from California, city of the Rose. Grew up in Pasadena. That's just how it go. I'm from California, city of the Rose. Grew up in Pasadena. That's just how it go.
S-Class Productions.
Palm trees, how we living now, no vacation. Working till the sun go down, dedication. When not around, they be hating. Every time I come around, celebration, celebration. I be celebrating, celebration. I be celebrating, celebration. I be celebrating, celebration. I be celebrating.
I remember me and all my homeboys counting pennies. Close my eyes and drink that Parmesan like it was Henny. Riding down to Lundy, get 5 nickels for my 20. Trying to call some girls up on my chirp, now we got plenty. Can you hear me now? Cause we done came up from the bottom. Some years ago I made that promise, I still got them. Now we chase them plaques, used to split that jack. Taco snacks, Mexicali packs, freak them blacks. We was opening acts, so many told us that we ain't belong. We was just dreaming that we could be on, making that music till 4 in the morning. Rolling through Hollywood playing my song. Mama just told me to study the ones that's great. And wait, now look at us popping in bottles to celebrate.
Palm trees, how we living now, no vacation. Working till the sun go down, dedication. When not around, they be hating. Every time I come around, celebration, celebration. I be celebrating, celebration. I be celebrating, celebration. I be celebrating, celebration. I be celebrating.
Coming up I was last, trying to get that plug cash. Traded in my buzz pass, my place is Ruz Snacks.
I had them tickets for lunch. Hated that government cheese. Saving a quarter for punch. Hand me down holes in my jeans. Nobody wanted to believe my dream was real. So I kill these beats and I pay my mama's bills. I never put dope in the bag. I never was repping the rag. Ride through the rows and the rows. Ride through the jets and the jag. I just came up, got my change up, pull that range up. I'm no stranger to that danger, ask my angels. See why the family pray now. They send the money my way now. All of my day ones stay down. We celebrate every day now.
Palm trees, how we living now, no vacation. Working till the sun go down, dedication. When it's not around, they be hating. Every time I come around, celebration, celebration. I be celebrating, celebration. I be celebrating, celebration. I be celebrating, celebration.